I was told by a pain specialist after looking at my MRI that there was no way that I was capable of becoming a firefighter. I was taking Advil like breath mints. I thought I was kind of at the end of the road for me. And at that point, I was starting to consider getting surgery.
Wow.
Or an injection or one of those two things, and that's thankfully when I stumbled upon you guys right around that time.
All right. There we go.
All right.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, this is Brycen. First in-person podcast. Brycen's a firefighter who had a L5-S1 disc herniation.
Yep.
So why don't you go ahead and share your story?
Yeah, so thanks for letting me come out here and hang out with you, Cam. I appreciate it, man. It's been a lot of fun. So yeah, I had an initial disc herniation when I was 19 years old. I was an EMT basic working on an ambulance, and when I was lifting a heavy patient off the ground, it was a bit of an awkward body position. And
you said that when you were 19?
Yeah, I was 19 years old. And
and you are 20?
I'm currently 26 now.
26, okay.
Yeah.
So 7 years ago, disc herniation.
And just body positioning was poor, and then ended up kind of slipping my grip. The patient fell back down onto the ground, and inevitably I tried to catch her, and that caused my initial injury, which following that kind of led me down the path of, workman's comp and going to a physical therapist, getting an MRI done, and then, not really finding any solution for a long period of time.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So that was when you were 19, and then when you were lifting the patient, did you actually feel like a pop, or like what did you feel?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was necessarily a pop, but I felt like just a complete tightness down my entire right side, and it just continuously got worse throughout the shift. And then what I thought might have just been some type of acute issue that would resolve on its own just never seemed to resolve.
Sure.
So I ended up having to go into light duty. And this was when I was trying to become a firefighter paramedic at the time. So, it kind of really halted a lot of my dreams right in their path. So it was certainly a dark time in some sense, but
also part of me is like, do I look at the camera? Do I look at the
yeah, right.
We're figuring this out first in person. And then maybe we can spoil it too, since I know sometimes people have a short attention span.
Yeah.
How are you feeling today? Going from years of sciatica, probably being told that, I think you were being told that you should put your firefighting career on the line, or, abandon it essentially.
Yeah. So
how do you feel today?
Oh man. I think I have those moments often where I'm pinching myself a little bit because of the progress I've made has been incredible. And a lot of it is thanks to you guys and your program. And so like, for example, yesterday we did an upper body workout, did a lot of trunk rotational stuff, and today we did a lower body heavy workout, and there would be no chance for me to have done that today if I was where I was at a couple of years ago. So light years better, and really have my life back. So
that's awesome. And this is pretty surreal too, because Brycen and I chatted on the phone last March, so March of 2023. Brycen took one of the 15-minute consultations that we offer. So I had not met him up until yesterday, which is kind of cool. It feels like I've known you for a little bit. The first time I met him was over a FaceTime. And at that point in time, I guess you're 24, 25. And Brycen was calling. He ended up joining our Limitless and Strength and Conditioning program. But Brycen and I really kicked it off because I had an L5-S1 herniation myself, which I talk about a lot. And at that time you were in pain. And I think you were talking about like missing out on a mountain biking trip and all these different things, but you had become a firefighter, but you were just dealing with pain, right? Because I know when Brycen was 19, had that disc herniation, he was told, hey, you should really kind of abandon the firefighting dream. He pushed through Fire Academy, but just did it with sciatica, which I have no idea how you did, because that sucks. But I guess, really, so 19 to 24, you were dealing with just unresolved pain. You found wealth. And then I want to say maybe it was within a few months or something, like you were almost pain-free or entirely, right?
Yeah. So I went through the classic, ropes that we jumped through initially, getting an MRI, going to physical therapy. And then initially I had some improvements, but it was pretty mild. And usually I still was having some level of pain throughout my daily tasks. And that just kind of persisted for a couple of years. I just kind of dealt with it. And going through Fire Academy, I remember there was multiple days where I was pulling like dummy victims out of buildings, but at the same time having pain while tying my shoes.
Okay. What's a dummy victim?
So that would be like a simulated human body. So usually around 100 pounds or 150 pound plus dummy body.
Oh, wow.
But that's kind of what we use to drill on the drill field and kind of reenact rescue type exercises and whatnot.
Okay. So yeah, you were going through that. What were, was it was an L5-S1 disc herniation?
Yep.
What were some of the things that you were told by, doctors, maybe PTs, chiros, maybe that were negative or positive, whatever? What were some of those things that you were told at that time that you're now showing are completely untrue?
Yeah. I mean, let it be known that like you can certainly take what the doctors say. I mean, a lot of things are of course valuable, but I was told by a pain specialist after looking at my MRI, he told me that there was no way that I was capable of becoming a firefighter, and that this problem I was having.
What is that hat?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. What is that hat?
Yep. And he also, encouraged me to just completely switch up my career. And that at the time I was, 19, 20-year-old kid that had been dreaming of becoming a firefighter his whole life. So that was just super heart-wrenching. But I think that was also the fuel I needed in order to get better. That gave me what I needed in order to push myself and really heal myself and take it into my own hands.
So when that pain specialist like told you that you shouldn't or wouldn't be a firefighter and essentially not much you can do, it's like, did he or she talk about lifestyle intervention or like, hey, Brycen, how are you moving? How's your sleep? How are all of these different things?
Yeah, that was the problem, is there was no solution to the issue. It was more just, okay, then we have to completely change what you're doing in your life altogether.
Right.
So yeah, there was no talk about body positioning or pelvic, having an idea of where your pelvic positioning is and whatnot. There was no talk about strengthening hips and your abdominal muscles or anything like that.
Sure.
So, it was certainly not in the same light that, wealth really approaches things.
So that happened when you were 19. Like, what were you doing for 4 or 5 years? Because when you started Wealth a year and a half ago, your sciatica is still completely unresolved.
Yep.
You were talking about starting the program and like everything hurt, just like a lot of our members with back pain or sciatica. What were you trying to do to manage for, 5 years? Was it, I know you had mentioned like gabapentin. Were you on medication? Was it, what were those things?
Yeah. So I mean, I was taking Advil, like breath mints, and which obviously we know is just a Band-Aid to the issue. It's not going to solve anything. I was taking gabapentin when needed. So like if I was getting really bad radicular pain down my right leg, I would take gabapentin to try and mitigate some level of the discomfort. And then I was doing routines that I was given by a physical therapist. And it just didn't seem to be doing the trick. I was really kind of at a loss. I didn't know. I thought I was kind of at the end of the road for me. And at that point I was starting to consider getting surgery.
Wow.
Or an injection or one of those two things,
Right.
And that's thankfully when I stumbled upon you guys right around that time.
What did it feel like to feel like you were at the end of the road?
Sucked, man. Yeah. Like being 20, I think at the time that I called you, I was probably 24.
Yeah.
And yeah, dude, it sucked because, I was young. I was relatively healthy otherwise.
Yeah.
And, I loved working out, but
body composition problem. I mean, you probably, when we took the call, you looked, similar. Now I think you're bigger.
Yeah, sure.
And no pain, right?
Yeah,
but like you looked healthy, right? And I think that's tough too.
Yeah.
Where we resonated on the phone, you're like, dude, I'm 24. Like I'm supposed to be this healthy young guy and dealing with all this stuff.
Yeah, that was difficult, man. I mean, your ego's hurt too. And there's a lot of things that I love to do, such as mountain biking, surfing, and all those things. I was just completely halted.
Yeah.
So really it was pretty miserable, but, it has given me an incredible appreciation for my life now.
Yeah.
Now that I'm able to do the things that I love, I remember back on those times that, I had taken for granted for sure.
Were you married at that time?
I was not. I was with, I believe that my wife's been a part of my injury the entire time.
Okay.
But,
because you've been with her for 6 years.
Yep.
And essentially that's about as long as you've been, as you were dealing with, sciatic and all that sort of thing.
Yeah. She's kind of been a part of part of it all. And, that's difficult too, having, significant others really go through it with you and not able to do simple house tasks and whatnot as
Right.
well,
Not be the husband that you want to be.
Yeah. Because you want to be able to provide, and when you're having severe sciatica, it feels like you can do basically nothing.
Yeah, pretty much useless.
Yeah.
When you were at the end of the road or felt like that, were you like, okay, end of the road to me means giving up firefighting, or does it mean getting surgery and then trying to get into stay in firefighting? Or what did that look like?
I didn't know.
Okay.
I wanted to hold strong on becoming a firefighter, and so that's why I decided to continue going through Fire Academy. I felt at some point, somehow, this has got to get better.
Right.
That's the only way that I kind of keep going, was knowing, okay, this won't last forever. It will get better. And so that's why I pushed through Fire Academy. But yeah, at that time I was considering, like, okay, maybe I do need to make a career change, or maybe I do need to consider surgery and whatnot. But, that just felt like my options were super limited by that time.
Sure. Yeah, dude, that's tough. I mean, I felt like I got there. I didn't have a job on the line or anything like that. Sure. But so when you joined Wealth, I think you were very excited to start the program.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And I'm going to try in the future to talk here, because I don't know if it's bouncing around. But anyways, I know that, you were very excited to start the Wealth program. Mm-hmm. What made you so excited to do that? Or why were you so ready? Because I remember we had that conversation, and then you signed up that day for the Limitless and Strength bundle, which was awesome.
Yeah. I think I just needed I needed a path to go down. I needed something new. And so when I got on the phone with you, and Katie was with you as well at the time.
Yeah.
What really resonated with me was that you guys, you as in the Wealth group, have been through exactly what I was going through.
Sure.
And so you guys showed me some light and through the tunnel, and showed me that there was a way out. And that was kind of the little hope that I needed in order to keep going.
Yeah.
And keep fighting the fight. And I'm so glad that I did. But yeah, as soon as I got off the phone with you guys, I knew that I was going to buy the program, and I knew that I was going to give it my all. And, you guys were honest and said that it was going to take work.
Yeah.
But
if you book a call with me, I'm not going to tell you it's going to happen overnight. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Because it's not true. It's cool to see some of our members. I mean, I had a D1 swimmer text me. He's like, dude, is it normal to get this much blood flow into the leg after day one? I was like, that's really cool. For some people, there are some movements on day 1 through 7 or whatever that seem to be groundbreaking, earth shattering. And to me, in my own right, they were, and I'm sure probably for you, but a lot of times you got to string together, multiple days, multiple weeks to really make improvements, whether that be disc pain, sciatica, back pain, shoulder pain, knee pain, whatever that is. You got to give yourself a little bit of time.
Totally. Yeah. And I mean, I'm still I've been out of the program now for, well over a year.
Sure.
And, I'm still continuously working on those movements and really the basics as well. Mm-hmm. Some of the stuff we did today, you still talk about pelvic positional stuff, talking about building pressure within, your abdominal cavity and whatnot. All those things are now a part of your life.
Definitely.
And I've just kind of ingrained them in everything that I do.
So, and I think this is probably a common thing that people think, and I'm sure you probably thought that when you were starting Wealth. It's because we say, oh, it's going to take time to heal, right? And you're like, well, I've already given it time.
Yep.
It takes time typically, but time plus, the right focus or the right energy towards things, right?
Yep.
And I think a lot of times maybe some people don't want to they really just don't want to put in the work. But I know that there are a lot of people listening and people out there who are like, dude, I will do anything to make this work, but I feel like I've done everything. And a lot of times I'm like, well, what does that look like? And they're like, well, I've done chiropractic and I've done massage and I've done blah, 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 maybe medication, injections. And then at the end, they're like, oh, and I've done PT. And I'm like, categorically speaking, to me, massage, acupuncture, chiropractic, all on its own, if that's what you've done, but you haven't spent time assessing your movement patterns. You haven't spent time assessing your imbalances, your strengths, your weaknesses, your posture, your lifestyle stuff. You have not done enough. So to just list out 10 things that you've done doesn't mean that you try it all. Then when you say I've done PT and we ask you, well, what does PT look like? A lot of times it's, oh, I've done 5 or 10 exercises off of a piece of paper for 3 months and I'm not getting better. It's like, well, yeah, there's no progression in it. It's too isolated. Like disc herniation rehab is like clamshell, bird dog, maybe McGill, McKenzie stuff, McKenzie press ups. You know, it's like, it's kind of crazy that you can almost say, I could say 5 or 10 exercises, and 95% of people with disc herniations or back pain are like, dude, I've done the same thing. It's like, yeah, you can't expect 5 exercises to heal something that really is, you know, kind of a full body thing. A long-winded way of saying, why or what did you learn about wealth that was different than what you were doing before?
Yeah. I mean, I think that you guys being through it, you know the process and how you guys got out of it. And I think that just that alone, you guys have been able to streamline the process of getting better. And the other thing too, is I think oftentimes the approach of like, you know, modern medicine, especially in the United States is, you know, what I went through is throw everything at the injury and see what sticks.
Right.
And I think that that's not always the right approach. I think that having a very linear and like rubric process that you go through with Limitless is like, it just makes things such a smooth process.
Sure.
Other thing being too, is when you're going to physical therapy, like I've been through, and I know a lot of you have as well, you get sent home those, you know, those classic routines that he was talking about, clamshells and whatnot. And you're doing those at home in your living room floor, but you don't have somebody watching you and monitoring your form and how you're doing those movements. And I think that that's what also you really get out of wealth is you get the eyes on you at all times. You video your movements. You're getting that feedback from the coaches. And so you can you have that investment from wealth as well as the investment of the program itself. So I think that was a big difference for me.
Yeah, I saw that you were active in the community. You definitely got some coaching, right?
Yep, totally.
Were there any big insights in general that you learned from coaching, or maybe just like, maybe some of our members are listening? Because we have a lot of members who do not use the Facebook, and it's really cool to see like our members go through and they get out of pain, they get the results that they want to without using coaching. But were there any big insights or
Yeah, I think it's really, really valuable just to have, you know, a community that's kind of going through the same thing as well, you know, because we're all dealing with some form or another of pain or injury and we're all trying to get better. Right. And so I think that alone is valuable, knowing that, you know, we're in this together. And as far as feedback, when I got a ton of feedback, because at first I hadn't done a lot of those movements before. And, you know, they might look simple, but then you go try to do them and you take a video of yourself and you really see those things that, you know, you don't see as you're doing the movement. So getting the feedback from other community members, people that have gotten better and gotten through the program as well, is really cool to see. And it motivates you to be like, well, if you got through it, you did the program, then I'm right behind you, you know? So,
right. Yeah. Just knowing that you can, it's really nice to see other people go through the same injury. When you were, you know, from 19 to 24, going through Fire Academy, being a firefighter, did you know of other people who had a disc herniation or sciatica or back pain? I mean, had you seen anyone who was, one, dealing with that and two, successfully overcome those issues?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, I think especially in the fire service, low back injuries are incredibly common. You know, especially with our job, we go from like a very sedentary sitting on the couch watching a movie or maybe sitting in the ambulance to making a rescue or doing fire operations of some type that takes on a ton of, you know, exertion out of the human body. And so low back injuries are super common.
Yeah.
I had quite a few coworkers that had been through some level of low back pain or disc herniations, and more often than not, they had gone the surgical route, and some of them were still dealing with chronic pain when I was asking them. So, yeah, I got some recommendations on you know, kind of where to go and what to do, but everybody's kind of got a different approach, right?
For sure. Yeah, and then, and you just kind of knew, did you know or think for whatever reason, like, hey, I'm 24, I should not be getting surgery?
Yeah.
I feel like there's got to be another way, or...
Yeah, I think the really big turnoff for surgery for me was talking to the people that have got it. And generally speaking, most of them didn't have an incredible amount of improvement. You know? And so to me, I just felt like if that's not going to be the fix, then it's probably not the right answer for me.
Yeah. I think, we've had, some members who've had like successful surgeries. And then I think a lot of times too, what makes for a successful or necessary surgery is also the importance of, the prehab and then also the rehab. And I think that's really important as well. If you are thinking about surgery, ask yourself too, am I just expecting this alone to fix my issue? Or am I also really willing to understand after this operation, I'm also going to have to do potentially a lot of work. So, maybe that does help you decide, oh yeah, I want to do the surgery. And I know for a fact it's going to take a lot of work. But a lot of times people that I come across on the phone, so many of our members have almost thought like, hey, it's rehab or surgery. One or the other is going to fix it. And it's like, no, you're going to get the surgery and then you're going to need to do the rehab as well. A lot of times. And then, they're like, oh, well, maybe I should try to do the rehab before since I'm not in a life-threatening situation and the surgery is not necessarily like do or die today. So why not go ahead and see if I can do the rehab? And that's where we have countless stories of people over and over and over being told that they need surgery, or maybe they're not told that they need surgery, but you really need, a nerve block or an injection or whatever. You need this thing in the medical realm. And then they go through and just have a really great movement routine through Wealth. And then they're like, wow, I never needed that in the first place.
Yeah, totally.
Cool place to be in.
I think the one thing too that, if I told new members or people that are considering joining too, is that, Wealth has a really good way of changing your mindset on top of it as well. We were kind of having a chat yesterday and, he was just picking my brain on kind of what I thought were maybe some of the differences that Wealth made for me. And the biggest one, I think, honestly, was mindset and going into it with a curiosity more than an anxiety. If you can take kind of that, objective fear out of your injury and then instead challenge yourself and push yourself in your abilities, I think that's what truly pushed me to get better. Was identifying, yes, I had this injury, but then also knowing, okay, it will get better. So now what do we do? What's the work that we do in order to get there?
Right.
And so taking that path really, for me, streamlined my healing completely.
Was that something that, you mentioned a coaching call that our members have access to that you said was really insightful. Was that totally. Was like the pain coaching call that we offer, right?
Yeah. Andrew,
what'd you learn about that?
Andrew's pain coaching call was incredible. And it really came at a perfect time that I needed it. I was still really early on in the program. I'd seen some improvements, but at that time I wouldn't say doubtful, but I was cautiously advancing, right? Sure. I had been burned over and over again and not made improvements. And Andrew's call was really significant in my progression. And really what he talks about is just that you have a physical problem, right? Objectively speaking, you can have an MRI with a printed injury or, they can see tears and whatnot, but that doesn't always mean that you have pain with that associated injury. And to me, that almost helped me detach a little bit from, what I'd seen on an MRI before and then what I was feeling in my low back. And, it kind of took a little bit of the emotion out of what I was feeling. Yeah. And then, that really kind of changed my mindset to go into more curiosity and then really trying to figure out what my capabilities were.
Right.
So I would recommend that episode, especially for new members to everybody.
Yeah. I think
he's done a second one now, I believe. Right.
Yeah. And I think, I think there's a lot of reasons why there's a lot of fear baked into chronic pain and injury. I would speculate that your pain specialist telling you at 19 that, hey, you should give up your career and there's nothing you can do. Was that a cause of fear?
Oh, dude. Yeah, that was completely
horrible thing to say, by the way.
Yeah.
I was told stuff like that too from my chiro, like, you're never going to do this and that again.
Yeah.
Like,
but now looking back, understanding that he's looking at an objective picture of a disc herniation.
Probably with what he studied, which is like, how do we treat injuries with only what we offer,
Exactly.
which is a pain specialist management, which is medication
Right.
and medication and pharmaceutical stuff,
Injections,
right?
And so on.
Like only. So, if that's all of your tools, it's like, hey, from all of the tools that we throw at injuries, we haven't seen people progress. Like, maybe we should start looking at other tools.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, I've dreamt about, meeting him again one day and just being like, hey, you remember when you told me that I could never run? Well, I just ran 6 miles yesterday and we just did heavy goblet squats today. But, I mean, I don't know if that was intentional on his part or not. But, honestly, I'm thankful that he told me that, because that gave me the fuel to prove him wrong, in some sense. And
yeah, I think that would be horrible to be like maliciously. There are people out there being like, you're never going to get better. But I think there's I think just like with the scope of practice, with how you treat and what you feel are the best methods to heal, like for instance, if all you're focused on is just medication, or all you're focused on is, if I'm a chiropractor and my only expertise is chiropractic adjustments, and I don't do chiropractic adjustments, and I don't pair that with, some sort of movement rehab routine, and then that's the only tools that you have, and then you're basing that off of like, hey, I haven't seen anyone get better with XYZ. It's like, okay, as a patient, you need to pull yourself out and ask, like, how and what are they really saying? They're just saying, hey, you're not going to get better if you keep coming to me based off of what I'm seeing and the ways in which I help people go through these injuries.
Right.
And that was really big for me was, when my chiropractor told me, you're never going to squat, deadlift again, wear a back brace, stop lifting heavy, all these things. I had to have a real look in the mirror moment and be like, hey, well, is this chiropractor living a life that I want to do? Is he pro weightlifting? Is he pro this or that? And he wasn't really. So I was like, okay, I just need to take it with a grain of salt. This person's kind of telling me things, but I don't necessarily, I'm going to take his words with a grain of salt, because like the life that he's living and the life that he's telling other people to live, it's not a life that I want to live myself. So why would I really take that for, more than that?
Totally. It's kind of the same token. Like, you don't take finance advice from a broke financial advisor. Right? I think that Katie, Andrew, and Cam have proved, that there is a way out, and they all had some experience of chronic pain, and so I had all my trust knowing that they were going to help me get back to what I wanted to do.
Yeah, and like this podcast, this conversation, our program's not for everyone. It's really not. I want to say that I believe, and when I talk to people on the phone or whatever, there's a lot of people out there proving that, the MRI, the X-ray, the results that, people have been told, hey, it's incurable or you can't get better. Our members are proving that over and over. So I would say in theory, our program is incredible for hypermobility related pains, disc herniation, shoulder, hip, full body aches, pains, joint health, muscle health. But the people that's not for are people who are looking for that quick fix and not willing to invest, at least a few times a week at 30 minutes per workout, because you're not really going to see the results there. So if you are looking for a quicker fix and that sort of thing, our program's not it, because it's like, it's an online program. We provide coaching and that sort of thing, but you yourself had to go through, watch 30 minutes of videos before you even do, those workouts for the next 7 weeks. So you're like, you have to analyze, okay, what does this movement look like? And then you have to try to do it and then ask yourself, how can I improve? So there is a lot of ownership involved in the healing process, which can be hard. You have to make sacrifices like, oh, I have to spend 30 minutes a day or every other day and set aside time. But I think that relative level of difficulty is so much better than living in pain for 5 years.
Completely.
So for a lot of our members too, they justify that. Like, dude, I'll do 30 minutes all day to feel better.
Totally. Yeah. If anybody knows, like if you've had sciatica, you'll do basically anything in order for it to stop. Yeah. I think too, very quickly, once you start seeing some improvements in the program, it just becomes fun. because then you're starting to challenge yourself in new ways. And as you're gaining the new ability, it's pretty exciting,
right?
Especially if you've been kind of held back for a long time.
Sure.
So
what were maybe some of like the myths or things that you thought about sciatica and back pain before that maybe you were wrong about? Or
yeah, I mean, I imagined, and I was told, like, you probably shouldn't be squatting heavy, you shouldn't be deadlifting, and so, rounding your back in any motion is bad. All these kind of objective, like,
it's just black or white.
Yeah,
this
black
is
or
bad
white.
And this is good.
Yeah, which is at this point is completely false. Like, I've been running, I'm back to surfing, I'm back to mountain biking. I can round my back, I can tie my shoes. You
can pretty much do everything, whereas before everything was horrible.
Right. Yeah. And then when you're in the darkness of back pain and sciatica, none of those things feel capable. Well, they don't feel like they're a possibility, but they are. And me being here now, I can be the one to say that.
Yeah, it's pretty surreal. We had a great upper body lift yesterday. We got a lower body lift in today. Hit the sauna, cold plunge. But yeah, it's been cool to share this time with you too, because when we first chatted, I was just telling you yesterday, I was like, I kind of saw myself in you when I first chatted with you. Just to, I'm 2 years older than you, but it's like I'm talking down, I'm your parent, but just a young kid who's like has the work ethic and desire to get better, and willingness to do literally what it takes, which I know that was me. I'm like, I will do the freaking plan to get better. Like, give me that. I don't want to deal with all this BS. Like, you can't do this, you can't do that. Now, of course, you also learn the program's not like F everything you've ever been told. It's like, no, it's a sensible progression. It's not to say, I think that's the thing too. If you have sciatica and you're like, you should never squat or deadlift again, let's pull back from that statement. Maybe we don't need to be doing the max effort with, this form right now in this day, but that does not mean we can't grow back into that. So I think that's the thing too, where there's some sort of truth into what people say about sciatica and back pain. Like, hey, don't do this, don't do that. Maybe do not do this in this one moment in time until you work on this, till you can get to this level, and then we can get you back. And those are not conversations, I feel, that are told to patients. And also, to be fair, it's such a nuanced conversation. And like, as a practitioner or professional, and if you knew that, and I know there are a lot of professionals out there who have this, and they think the exact same way as at Wealth, but they don't have the time to help out their patients, or maybe the patients aren't even receptive to that.
I mean, I think too, what you guys really helped me with is, once I did get out of pain, I had a couple of relapses, what you would call it, where I felt good. I was like, okay, it's time to get back to playing basketball and running and all this stuff. And I would kind of flare myself back up. And that's when you and I kind of had a check-in and talked about, it's been this long, however amount of time it's been since you've last played basketball and ran. Okay, well, tomorrow you can't go just play an hour and a half of basketball and expect, be back to where you were. So I think the other thing too is approaching it with, you've done a little bit for a little too long. So now let's do a little bit, and then slowly increase those increments over time.
That's a conversation which, we deal with all the time with our members. Brycen was texting me or calling me, and it was something like, hey, how do I get back into running? And before we even talked about technique of running post sciatica, I think there's a lot of fear that goes into getting back to that. But I was like, you need to change the narrative in your head that you can't run. You can run. Running is just technically having 2 feet off the ground at any point in time. That's what running is moving forward. Maybe there's some running nerds out there who debate that, right? But simplistically, 2 feet off the ground at any time. So you could go run a 15-minute mile right now, even if your best was a 6-minute mile. So you can do that. And you could probably do that for a quarter of a mile. So today you can run. Let's just start to get you better and better and better. That was a little mindset tip we gave you. But, those things, they seem so simple. We have to do that a lot of times with our members who are dealing with chronic pain and like, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't deadlift, or I can't squat, or whatever. It's like, no, you're your entire definition of that is what that means to be squatting and deadlifting in the CrossFit gym or bodybuilding. And like, I used to do all this stuff and I can't do anything. It's like, no, you can still work on that movement pattern. Let's just start to build it back up safely, progressively.
Yep, totally. Yeah.
What, how have you noticed, for firefighters, first responders, anything like that, how have you noticed what you've learned with wealth applies on the job, or is there anything that's been,
Yeah. I mean, I think that in my workforce specifically, and, when I say that, I'm talking about, military and police and firefighters, that, we love to help people. That's kind of what our job is. We got into the business to help people. And in doing so, oftentimes we'll maybe neglect ourselves a little bit. We work long shifts. We're up all night oftentimes. And so inevitably we're putting ourselves and our bodies in front of, everything else. And therefore injury is pretty high and common in the fire service, in the police force, in the military. But usually, and historically speaking, we're fairly prideful, and we don't usually admit when we're in pain or injured. And, I think that there is a big need in my workforce specifically for a program like Limitless, where you can address kind of these root issues that's been going on and kind of get ahead of the injury curve. So, for example, in my department, we usually have anywhere from 3 to 10 people off on injury leave at any given time, and if you know anything about firefighters is that the least, one of their least favorite things is to go on a light duty. Everybody wants to get back on the fire engine. Right. So yeah, I think there's a big need, in my workforce for addressing those issues and giving some type of linear process to get back on the line and, getting back to doing what we love.
Yeah. So speaking, getting back to doing what you love, what are you doing now that you couldn't do a year and a half ago, 5 years ago?
Yeah. I'm, just like simple things such as bending down and grabbing something or putting my shoes on.
Because when you would, or if you have sciatica, you probably know, but if you don't have that back pain, like what would those little efforts take, or how would they feel on a day-to-day basis?
I mean, it took all of your might in order to like mitigate the nerve shock going down your leg, or, dude, I don't miss that at all.
Yeah, I don't either. For me, it's the left leg, but
yeah, same deal though. Yeah. So other things too. I mean, I took a flight here from Oregon, which was, I had a connection flight. I was on a plane for a couple of hours, and typically I would have been stressing out about my low back hurting during that period of time. And it didn't even occur to me until I got here that I didn't even think about it. Right. So
that's awesome. That freedom, right?
Totally. Yeah.
So much new mental energy and space to think about other things.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. And just, daily life just feels less stressful now that, you don't have back pain looming over your head all day long, and then back to just doing the things that I love. My wife and I are booking trips and traveling. We're going to Belize next month, or, we're just doing things that without, back pain being even a thought in my mind to hold me back,
When you were dealing with that, your wife knew you pretty much as long as you were with her.
Yeah.
You were not operating at 100%, right?
Yeah.
So how does she feel about like seeing you get like, is it almost like, is it in a sense a new person or?
Yeah. So like my injury occurred pretty early on in our relationship. Like we had just been started dating and then my injury occurred. And so she saw the big shift, and she saw me.
So she knew you before you had pain?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So she kind of saw me going from like full rev limiter lifestyle to nothing. So she has a really good perspective on seeing me in the darkness.
We got to call her on right now.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But she's also the one that was telling me that I was improving before I even knew it, which was cool. She would remind me, like I would pick something up and go move an object, and she'd be like, did you realize that you didn't even you weren't even paying attention to your back right there?
No, that's awesome.
And that was cool, is that she was witnessing the improvement at the same time that I was. And so, yeah, my wife is so thankful that I bought this program and went through with it, because she was so tired of hearing me complain about my back every day.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I was having a call with some guy and he's like, yeah, my wife won't let me say the 4-letter word. And I was like, what? And he's like, back. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't think about that. I never really had my fiance. I wasn't with her really it was at the very early stages. And I I think probably right when I met her was like 3 months after I started the program, and I was able to like make a flight out and feel better. So it was actually all on the tail end of the recovery.
Yeah.
So no one really in my life got the short end of the stick, let's say, aside from, a few blow ups on, my mom. Sorry, mom. I just remember one time she came in my room and she's like, what do you want me to, I was so pissed off. Just like couldn't understand the pain. And I grabbed my laptop and I tried to throw it down and somehow she stopped. She's like, what's going on? I just want this effing pain to go away.
Yeah, dude.
Just such a short fuse. And
yeah, that's the other thing too, is you don't even realize how much back pain and sciatica is affecting your mental well-being too.
Dude, we wouldn't be able to just like sit here on a bench with no back support and it's crazy when you have pain, you have to think about trying to control every little thing in your day and like micromanage
100%
to mitigate the effects of pain.
Yeah.
The worst possible way. So for those of people who say you don't have time or my schedule is busy or blah, 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 it's like you're already spending so much time and energy thinking about how to mitigate and manage pain and not make it worse. It's like, dude, let's just spend that time into the wealth program, seriously, and make it better.
Totally.
Just do that.
100%. You will not regret it whatsoever. And you'll look back on these times of like you said, trying to mitigate the pain any way you can with Advil, body positioning, constantly readjusting yourself.
Cracking.
When those things are in the past, it's like a breath of fresh air, really.
One thing that's like kind of interesting, and I didn't really know how to talk about this on the phone with some lady yesterday, but she was talking about, she was saying something like, oh, your program is expensive. And I was going through, I'm like, Limitless is, under $1,000. You could do it for $90 a month. But then she told me that she was going to her PT in Cairo and spending $300 a week on that continually. And I asked her what that was. And she said she's continually going to her PT to get manual work and continually going to her Cairo to get put back in place. And she's in this perceived fragile state where she feels like, I can't even start the program because I'm in this fragile state. So I will start the program in a few months once they help me get better.
Right.
And I know, I'm like, that's not true. You could start the program because the program starts with like pelvic tilts and breathing and just such manageable stuff.
Yeah.
But it is interesting. There are a lot of people who feel like they're in such a fragile state and like they cannot be left alone by a chiropractor or a PT to get themselves out. Did you ever feel like that?
Yeah, well, I had already done that. I'd been there, done that.
Okay, and maybe that's where she is.
Yeah, so for me, I kind of knew that wasn't the answer. At least for me, it wasn't. And so I just dove right in and didn't hesitate. And I think it's the nice thing about wealth is even if you are 100% fit with no pain, I think you'll find value in the program too. So,
I think if anything, you just kind of move through it faster. Like you really kind of hit your stride. And you said after 2 months you were done with Limitless, and you did the strength and conditioning.
Yeah.
You were ready for it. It was a good 2 months, but you're like, okay, cool. Right.
Totally.
And then some of our members who come in a little more deconditioned, to put it nicely, might need 6 months or 4 months or something like that. Yeah. But the whole point is, hey, we're having Brycen up here today to share his story. And for some people who are in their 20s or 30s, they're going to look at him and be like, oh, that's me. And then there's other people who are like, that's not my story at all.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't feel like I'm in shape. Maybe, Brycen had a disc herniation. I have one, but he's 20 years younger or 30 years younger. What would you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that really at the end of the day, we're all coming here for the same reason, because we're having horrible back pain and we want to get better. I think, trying to, if you put a timeline on things, I think that'll also create some level of anxiety. So for me, I didn't know if I was going to get better in 2 months, 3 months, or 4 months.
Right.
But I got to a point where I knew, okay, it's time for me to progress and continuously challenge myself.
Sure.
But that doesn't mean that I abandoned those movements and everything that I learned up to that point.
Right.
So, yeah.
Any big movement principles that you learned in the program, general themes or exercises or?
Yeah. Oh man, so much stuff. Yeah. To even unload, but everything builds on itself. Yeah. I think everything from just simply building pressure in the abdomen was big.
Core 360 degrees.
Yep. Expanding from all angles and all sides, as well as stacking the chest, the rib cage,
Yeah.
over the pelvis, as well as, tightening down your lats and everything at one time. So I would say we would call that core stability, proper core stability, a proper hinge. It's incredible how long I lifted and deadlifted and didn't truly and properly know how to hinge.
Right.
And last one, let's go with shoulder blade mobility and positioning.
Scapular work. You're like, whoa, I didn't even realize, because you think the shoulder is just this part, and you're like, wow, there's this cool little thing on the back that.
Yeah, and that opens up a lot more range of motion. And like, we were doing some stuff yesterday that was super challenging.
Yeah. What were we doing yesterday?
Yeah, we were doing like these what do we call those, where you
just like
crossovers, and you're pulling across. But if you're allowing that that scapula to rotate and really like fully get that full stretch, it just
he's a little sore.
I'm a little sore today. I've been rolling out on the brakes for today.
Yeah, we learned some good things. Yeah, and I think we were talking about this yesterday, like how much of the success for you was mental versus physical, like biomechanics versus mental, the ease of knowing, hey, I'm going to get better. There's other people who have gotten better. I don't need to fear my pain as much. And I'm like, those are all great ideas to have. And for some people, that makes a big portion of the healing. But also, too, I was like, you can't just like have the most positive mindset, or talk about all this good mental health stuff that we talk about in the program, and then also be moving like crap. And that's a nuanced conversation, because again, at Wealth, we try not to talk about like, we don't want to add fear to movement. But when I say moving like crap, I think you have to understand, like, when you have an exercise such as the hinge or the squat, depending on what the goal is of that exercise, specific tissues and muscles and joints should be getting more of a stimulus than others. Mm-hmm. And the problem is not like just rounding your back or doing those things. But if you think, oh, I'm doing a hinge and this is the best hip and glute exercise, and you're not feeling it at all in your hips and glutes, and you're only extending from L5 or L4 or whatever, it's like, that's not really the hinge that we're going after. And again, it's not bad for the low back to be working. We want that. But I think what is not the best is when people think over and over and over we're moving in ways that we're just not. And I think that's the goal with the program. If we say we're going to hit a hip hinge, let's hit it really well. And then if we say we're going to do this other exercise with this intention, let's make sure that our mind to muscle and we're actually hitting those specific tissues. And also too, like, it's not to say that now moving around when you're, doing your job or taking fires or pulling the rope, which you talk about, it's not like you need to be like, oh, I need to get it all in my glutes or my back, and if I don't, I'm messed up. But we use training as an opportunity to say, I'm going to do this thing with this specific intention in mind, this specific joint and muscle, angle, biomechanical focus, and I'm going to get good at creating that relationship.
Totally. Yeah. Like you asked me, kind of, was it more mental or was it more about the movements? And the answer is both. Like, first of all, I was horribly anxious about my pain and anything that would make it worse. I was always anticipating that next movement that was going to throw me
into the jolt.
Yeah. When is that coming? Inevitably I'm going to have sciatica. If I try to lift that.
And then you're really tensing up over everything because you don't know that there's a lot of other ways to move and smaller things.
Totally.
So your view is like, that's the thing with Limitless too. It goes over 120 movements.
Yeah.
So your mind expands on movement as well. You're like, whoa, there's a lot of things that I can do to move around on a day-to-day basis while my injury is healing to rebuild confidence.
Totally. 100%, which is then kind of goes into the mental thing as well. Is like, once you can kind of start understanding these movements and ingraining them in all of, your daily life as well, then your confidence starts to increase. And then your body's capability, and the proper way to hinge over and grab something off the ground. And slowly but surely over time, you start doing those things without even thinking about it. So for me, if I am lifting a heavy patient, I'm already bracing my core. I am already hinging myself in the most proper way I can, given the circumstances. But those things are now part of my movement,
And I think, that's really important, right? Because it's like, Now for me, when I was having the flare-ups with sciatica, when I was first starting the program, I had to be so cognizant, and I was like, okay, every time I bend down to pick something up, I'm going to do this, because it was helpful. But now it's like, okay, I don't think about those things. If I want to do a hinge, or I want to do more of a back bend or more of a knee bend, it just happens naturally, right?
Yeah.
You, though, on the other hand, I think there probably is more applicability to that, in the sense that you're carrying a lot of gear, you're picking up patients in weird angles and that sort of thing. So it is cool to know how to leverage your body against some other weight that's further away.
100%.
And that's where it does make sense to not just be like, oh, well, just because I can lift it this way, I'm going to. It's like, well, you're repeatedly doing those things. So it's helpful for you to know how mechanics and physics works of the body, right?
Yeah, Katie and I kind of like touched on that too on the initial call, because Katie was a nurse, and you know, like inevitably, like you're going to be lifting patients, you're going to be shuffling them and moving them in front of your body. Yeah. So you kind of understand, okay, I'm going to have to do this movement. So what is the best way that I can set myself up where I'm not putting myself in a compromised position over and over and over again? So yeah, you know, I and again, like once I started kind of getting the proper body positioning down, I just started to do it without even thinking about it.
Right.
And then therefore my confidence is higher, and then I'm not nervous going into each and every call that I was running.
Right. Yeah. Now you've been doing it for a year and a half.
Yeah.
What's going on in your mind these days? What are you excited about?
Yeah. You know, just continuously challenging myself. You know, Cameron exposed some inner like
we did some Copenhagen's and adductor groin work today.
So that's on the list.
You were shaking. I probably got a video. I'll throw it up here.
Yeah.
You were shaking. You were cramping, just adducting that hip, which is fun to watch.
Yeah. So just, you know, I'm back to living life, which is the biggest blessing of it all. But now it's just continuously challenging myself. So I'm doing the Firefighter stair climb, the Seattle stair climb, which will be in March. So I'm going to start training for that. And, you know, I need to start getting back to running here soon. So we'll start, you know, maybe finding something to start training for that. But yeah, just continuously challenging myself each day.
Yeah. Well, you did Limitless for a few months, and you've pretty much been doing the strength and conditioning program for what, like a year now?
Yeah. So this is my second time going through it completely.
Okay.
Yeah. So I kind of switched to a different program, but I'm back on it now.
Okay.
So, yeah.
What do you like about the strength and conditioning program? Because I will say that's more niche. I guess it kind of has that CrossFit-esque thing, right? Sure. So a lot of our members do not come in initially for the strength and conditioning, and then less people who do Limitless do that, because a lot of them just kind of want that general confidence and mobility, pain relief, strength, and basic stuff of squat, push up, pull up, deadlift, like all of those exercises. What have you liked about the strength and conditioning program?
Well, what's great about it is that it just continues to build on what you've been learning over the last 7, 8, or however long until you got out of wealth program. It just continues to build on those movements. So still talks about, building pressure in the abdomen and body positioning and hinging, but now it's starting to get more challenging. And not only that, but it starts getting into some Metcon type stuff, such as like AMRAPs, every minute on the minute, stuff like that. So I really liked that it kept building on those, fundamentals that we learned.
Sure.
But then now continuously pushing me and challenging me. And then I've shared a couple of the workaux with my crew at the fire department, and they give me crap for doing the hip mobility stuff, and then they try to do it and they realize it's more challenging than it looks.
Sure. So. Well, what are you learning now? You were mentioning this to me, why don't you just kind of take me through what role you have with the new firefighting recruits and what your goal is with them? Yeah. So, having the experience of going through Fire Academy with Sciatica was, to put it, nicely, it was horrible. So how would you put it not nice?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, that was really not an experience that I would recommend or want for anybody. Right. So we have new recruits coming on currently. I believe we have 19 new recruits that have joined my department.
And they go through, what department? Where are you, a firefighter?
I'm a firefighter at Eugene Springfield Fire in Oregon.
And you said is that the biggest one in Oregon or in your area?
We're the biggest one in my area, especially the city of Eugene.
Okay.
It's like us, and then the next biggest would probably be like Clackamas and Portland Fire Department, so up north a little bit. But we're a 16-station department. We got a little over 250 firefighters, so we're a pretty big department.
Wow. 200 over 250?
Yeah. So we have,
And you see a lot of injuries in your firefighters.
Yeah, we're, like I said, we usually have anywhere from 3 to 10 people on injury leave at any given time. So
Wow.
my goal was, hey, I've learned a lot of stuff with Wealth and Limitless, and I kind of wanted to just pass it forward. So I am now helping coach a couple times a week. We have new recruits that are going through a 12-week fire academy. And so a couple days a week, I'm running them through some mobility type work and trying to get ahead of that curve and just get them thinking about body positioning as they're going through this fire academy. Because, each and every day you're going to be pushing yourself to the limit. And if you can at least properly hinge and pick something off the ground, that might just prevent one less back injury.
Yeah. What, how are they receptive to it? Are you noticing people around you are receptive? Are you carrying a different energy within yourself?
Yeah. I think it's been fun and cool. I'm kind of known as the back pain guy a little bit, but the funny thing is they'll give me a little bit of grief for the funny movements that I do in the gym. But as soon as they're having some back pain, who are they texting? They're texting me to see what they can do to fix it.
Sure.
So, no, but it's relatively speaking, it's been really well perceived. I think all of us hate being hurt, and us firefighters have a difficult time asking for help. So I'm trying to make myself a resource for people to use, in the fire service and first responders in general. Is if you're having pain or any hesitancy at all, feel free to hit me up. I would love to talk about it and help you get better in any way.
Yeah, that's awesome. Any other things that we haven't chatted about? I know we could probably also chat for a few hours. We were chatting for a few hours yesterday.
Yeah.
Anything else, or just people who are sitting here in pain or
I know that we were talking about earlier, I'm a young guy, and generally speaking, it's hard to believe that maybe I was debilitated with back pain, but I was where you were, and not that long ago. And so if you are having any hesitancy or you're feeling apprehensive going into the program or thinking, will it work for me? It was a thing that changed my life, and I can be only thankful for that for you guys. And so, I give you all the encouragement to join the program and get to work and know that it will be worth it in the end.
That's awesome. Well, we appreciate the thanks.
Yeah,
it's really rewarding for Katie, Andrew, myself, and also our coach to be able to continue to help people get out of pain.
Yeah.
It's nice that you're thanking us, but thank you for trusting us and doing it. And thank you also for putting in the work, because we wouldn't be able to share this story if you didn't put in the work. Totally. That's the thing. Yeah. You didn't buy this magic fix physical product. You enrolled and invested in an experience that took a few months to kind of finish the Limitless course and get out of pain in a few months. But now it's almost become a lifestyle, that you're building off of. So
totally. Yeah.
There seem to be, people come in, they have different goals. And my goal is to get rid of this pain. And then you kind of do, and you're like, oh, wow, what's next?
Totally.
And that's what's difficult to encapsulate that. I mean, that's why it's called Limitless, which is, a little cheesy cliche name, which it is true. That's why it's called Limitless. You see people come in, debating if they are going to stay in firefighting, careers on the line. I talked to a member who's got a divorce, because just pain was so difficult and straining on the relationship. So you've been in pain, it affects everything. So we're here for you, Brycen. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man.
I think we got to go get some Chipotle, go eat.
Sounds great.
Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you.
Take care. Thanks for listening.
Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in today. Now, if Brycen's story resonated with you and you are ready to take control of your pain and get back to doing what you love, the Limitless program is here to help. We've helped thousands of people just like Brycen overcome chronic pain, avoid surgery, medications, endless therapy. We've had members who have had surgery, rehab after as well. So because you listen to this podcast, we are throwing in an exclusive discount as well. Just use the code POD10 in all caps, and you can actually take 10% off of the Limitless program. You do not have to live in pain. There's a way forward. We would love to see you in there. Now, if you have any questions, just use the link in the bio. We'll put our contact link in there. Would love to help answer any questions.